Hi guys, hello. This is Sharina. Most of you guys will know me or get to know me when you come to class. I just wanted to go ahead and do this quick video for blocks simply because it's something we go over in every ACLS class. The blocks are all over the exam, so you will have to know them when you come to class. It is my aim that this will help you, and that's why we're doing this video today. If you are a pro, if you have a high level understanding of blocks, this is not for you. I would say you probably would be bored, but if you're curious, go ahead and watch the video, give me feedback or maybe tips to help me out. I love that. So that's something there. But again, this is just a simplified way to identify blocks. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so let's start by identifying the R to R interval. We will only use two features, the R to R interval and the PR interval. I want you guys to always start with the R to R interval when you're identifying your blocks, and you'll learn a little bit about why later. So just trust me here. So what do I mean when I say the R to R interval? This is a first degree AV block that we're utilizing. I'm not trying to test you guys. I want you guys to pick up the rules for identifying the blocks. So this is a first degree block. We're using the R to R interval to determine whether or not we have drops or no drops. And that's exactly what I want you guys to think about when you're inspecting your blocks or any rhythms really. So as we all know that this is P, that's your P wave. This is our Q down here. Excuse the writing, you guys get the idea. And this is the R up here at the top, right? Everybody remembers this. If not, you might want to take a little review. And then this point down here, right next to the Q, is going to be your S. So we have the P, Q, R, and S. And what we need to identify is every single R. And that's all we need to determine our blocks is the R wave. So we have one here. There's an R, there's an R, here's another, and another. So these are our R waves or our R points that we are using. And what we're using this for is to determine timing, or as you might say, length between each R wave. If you were to take this line, pick it up and drag it over here, would it be the same? And with a good eye, you can almost always identify a missing QRS or a missing R wave, the R point. So these look pretty close in length. Okay, I know they taught us in school to look for PQRS, but when you get to third degree, it will trick you. And I don't want you guys to get tricked up. So look at the R to R interval. There are no missing R's. There are no missing complexes. Let's say this were missing. Let's say this was not here. If this were not here, you notice that from here to all the way over here would be much longer than from per se here to here, right? It would just be longer. So that's what the point is. So you use your R to R interval, and we're going to say no drops because we did not miss any of the R points or the R complex. The R to R interval was completed. Nothing was missing. There are no drops. And that's what we would say about this rhythm. All we need to find out is, does it drop or does it not drop? So for when you look for the R to R interval, it should tell you, you should identify drops, no drops, or you might see drops. So put that on your little cheat sheet. You're looking for drops, or if it has no drops. Now this one has no drops, so this was a hypothetical that we showed you in here. We're just going to get rid of that because we do have a completed QRS. All right, I hope that makes sense. We're going to go into the PR interval next, and those are the only two features. Again, I can't stress enough, you only need the R to R and the PR interval to identify your drops. Now we're still using this first degree AV block. Now we've moved on to the PR interval. And just like before, we're going to use the PR interval to tell us something about this rhythm or this block. And what we want to know from the PR interval is it normal? Or in other words, does it fit? It should either fit normal parameter, and we'll talk about that next, or does it not fit? So fit, no fit. That's all you need to know, and really that's it. PR interval either fits or it doesn't fit. And what am I referring to when I say fit, no fit? What is a normal PR interval? Well, we know that a normal PR interval should equal one of the bigger boxes. It should be about 0.20 seconds, right guys? Okay, I have no audience, talking to myself. It's okay. So that's what a PR interval should be. One box, one of these boxes, like here. Sorry, okay, like there. One box, guys. And within those boxes, we all know that there's 5 of those little boxes totaling 0.04 seconds. And the 0.04 seconds times 5 of the boxes equals our 0.2 seconds. So we use that as a time guideline to determine whether or not the PR interval will fit within 0.20 seconds. And you can use a box to identify it as an eye check. Because if you square a box, let's take this one for example. First let's identify where we should measure this PR interval. That will help you too. So we're going to measure the PR interval starting at the inflection point of the P wave. So right there. Always right before the P wave takes off. And we already identified this is a P wave, right guys? So here is the inflection point. So that's where you'll want to draw your little marker to determine your timing. And then the R wave we know is up here. We do call this the PR interval, but one of my kind students reminded me that this is the atrial conduction from here to here. And once you get in beyond that deflection point, I don't know if you guys can see where the Q comes in there. See, that would be Q. Remember, you're going into ventricular conduction, so we only measure the PR interval from the inflection point of the P wave to the start of the deflection point of the Q wave. So right before it dips off, you're going to take that line again. We'll do this one. So from here to here. Oops, I don't like where that one is. Let's go back. So more right before that deflection of right in here. Oops. Let's do that. It's going to be right here, guys. Right there. Good. I like that better. And from here to here is the timing we're looking at. And look at this. Here is where it should be. It should be done. And look at how much more space we have out here. So, as you can see, and most people identify first degree AV blocks very well. There are no drops because we determined that earlier, as we can see here. No drops. And how did we know there were no drops? In the previous slide, we did the R to R interval. And then in this slide, we're also looking at the PR interval. And what's typical of a first degree is that none of them will fit. Usually, none of the PR intervals will ever fit. So when you're defining your first degree block, you look at that rhythm. And we're assuming, guys, this is a 6-second strip. Okay? You will never have drops, and the PR interval will never fit. So if you have those two things to be true, you know you're in a first degree. And first degree is very reliable with this definition. Okay, guys? So that's it. Look for your PR interval and look for your R to R interval, and we are in good shape if you can do that. Let's go on to second degree. Okay, before we go on to second degree, I thought it'd be a good idea to just recap so that you guys are clear on what we're looking for. Whenever you are inspecting your blocks, you only inspect for the drops using what first? The R to R. Okay, so we need the R to R interval. And then when you're looking, and it either drops or no drops, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. And I think you guys are good at looking at these. For my newbies, just hold on to your R to R interval. Remember, R to R. That's what we mean. R to R. Is the timing nearly perfect? You know, if it's within, you know, a half a box or so, but it's still there, I wouldn't be too strict, especially if you, I won't get into an advanced technique, but just so that it's nearly perfect. And most of these are. Okay. If it's a whole box off or something like that, if it's just one, but it's there and it's nearly perfect, usually your eye is going to tell you. Then there's no drops. Now, let's see here. R to R equals drops, no drops. And the reason I'm being so redundant here is because you really need to remember where to start. And I want you guys to start with the R to R interval. And then we took our PR, same thing, to determine whether it was on time or whether it fit the length. And what did we say the PR length should be? 0.20 seconds, guys. And 0.20 seconds is denoted by one box. And as you can see here, this PR interval goes way too far every single time. And that was your first degree. But we're going to use this feature over and over again. So we have fit, no fit on the PR interval. It either fits or it does not fit. Fit, no fit. Okay, I'm going to trust you guys. Let's go. All right, now we have second degree type 1. I'm not trying to trick you guys. I'm telling you that's what this is. But I want you guys to define it. How do we know it's second degree type 1? Based on the features we decided we would use with the R to R interval and the PR interval, it is now our job to define what it means to be a type 1, a second degree type 1 rhythm. So let's get into it. First thing you should ask yourself is, do we have drops? Drops or no drops? And for some of you, you may have already identified the drops, but again, just like we taught in the first video, in the first part of this lesson, it's to be determined by the R to R. Excuse my pen, it won't go all the way. And then look at this one. I hope you guys have identified at least one drop by now. Okay, looking pretty good there. And then look at this one. It sort of goes away. There's nothing. If you saw that there's a missing QRS there, you're doing great. And then coming over here, if you saw that there's a missing QRS, I would say, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, probably about right here. Yeah? Okay? So you are definitely missing some R waves in here. So that tells us we have drops. Now, I want you, for your notes, to just accept that every second degree has drops. So if you find a rhythm and you do your R to R inspection and you find drops, I want you automatically to say to yourself, I'm in a second degree, because no other rhythm drops. Okay? Second degree will always drop. Now, what's the last thing we have to do is tell what's happening with our PR interval. Now, here's a little trick. If you're really good at identifying drops, well, you have to, because if you don't identify the drop and second degree does drop, you're going to miss the definition of it. So once you identify the drop, I want you to go to the PR interval preceding the drop. So you go right in front of it, and here's that P inflection point, and here's that before the dip of the QRS. Ooh, it's a little bit ahead of it. Let me make that better. I would like it right here, if I can have it there. Oh. I think you guys get the idea. Let's see here. Let me see if this is better. Ooh, why is it doing that? Okay, right here is where we want to be. Good. Right before that inflection point, and you guys can see that. Look. Ooh, bigger than one box. Do you see that? Because what we're doing is the drop is here, nothing's here, so it's missing. That's why we call it a drop. So I want to use the PR interval preceding the drop, and that's this PR interval complex right here. And when I look at that, I can see it does not fit. So PR interval does not fit. And that is your definition of a type 1 second degree block. Okay, if you guys have any questions, just type them or email me or put it in a comment box. Bring your questions to class. It's okay. So that's it for second degree, guys. I have no more to offer. Okay, by now we kind of have a handle. I expect you guys to have a handle on what we're using to identify the blocks, and that is your R to R and your PR interval. So let's dive in. First, you guys need to look at a strip and identify whether or not you have what? Drops. And usually, again, our eyes will help us with this, because when it's uneven, your eyes are going to catch it. So if you would come into here, I would say your drop would be right about, it would probably land somewhere here. Okay, that's a missing QRS, but it's not there. So we know we have drops, so let's go ahead and say that we have drops. And if you listened to the previous video, I did already tell you that second degree always has drops. Second degree 1 or second degree 2 will always drop. So if you find a drop, you should automatically say, I'm in a second degree drop. And then your only burden is to figure out if it's a type 1 or a type 2. And we just did a type 1, and now we're going to do our type 2. Now, we use our R to R. Now we need our PR interval to tell us whether or not this will fit inside of one box, or the 0.20 seconds. And so again, we learned if we have drops, we're only going to use the preceding PR interval to determine our PR wave, our PR interval. And here we are. Look at this, guys. Do you see that? From here to here. Look at how nicely that fits. That definitely fits. And we use that because we said this was a drop here. Here's our drop. nothing happened there. I don't really like that. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Yeah, nothing happened there. We said there was a missing QRS here. We determined a block was here, right in there, and so we used the preceding PR interval. We used this PR interval to determine if it fit or if it did not fit. And as we see that, it pretty well fits. And if we inspect another one, if we come, I saw another drop, and it is here. I would say right in here, there's a drop. I'm going to call that a drop. And if I inspect the preceding PR interval, and you don't want to use this P wave, because what happened here is you caught a drop. This was a drop. This should have been a QRS. It did not happen. So you want to go over to the one where there was a complete complex PQRS, and you will inspect that one for the PR interval. And look, will it fit? Look how nicely, guys. Okay. Wow. That fits one box. You have a little bit more time there. It did not go that far, but that's not what it's supposed to do. And that is a true feature of a second degree type 2. Second degree type 2, when it comes to the PR interval, it will always fit. There you go. And that's going to be true for everyone. So if you're good at identifying drops, which most of us are, our eyes pretty much guide us there, do not use PQRS to determine your drops. And that's where most people get in trouble. I want you to focus on the R to R interval. Okay. Now, let's take a look at third degree. And again, we're only using our two features that we talked about before. We're looking for drops using the R to R, or we're looking for fit, no fit using the PR. So it's the R to R and the PR interval. Okay, that's your guide. All right, let's get into it. And this is why you don't want to use PQRS, is because most people will say that there are drops on third degree. They look at this and they go, oh, I have drops. I want you to avoid doing that for this inspection. When you inspect on your rhythms, I really want you just, again, to use that R to R. And hopefully you guys are seeing what I see, which is that on third degree, you have no drops. It's all there. Okay? If you can do that, you're doing fantastic. Now, on third degree, what you're left to do, so we said no drops. Let's go ahead and make that as a definition, no drop. That should be in your notes. Third degree does not drop. And then we have the last piece of this puzzle would be to use our PR interval. Now, when we did second degree, we had drops. Third degree has no drops. So we were able to, on the second degree, go to the preceding PR interval. And we will not have that option here, and that's okay. All we need to do is inspect several PR intervals. And the reason I want you to inspect several, okay, here's one here. No drops, and it fits. I'm having a revelation as I teach you guys, and that's great. Really, this is all you need to know. Third degree will have no drops, and you will find a PR interval that fits. So as you see here, as we go through and we measure our PR intervals, see how it fits? Oh, that was a bad point of, you see there, because I went behind the deflection point, but you guys get it. Even if I went before it, coming up a little bit closer, this thing fits. So right there is where it should be. And here is where we should measure again. And then right here at the cutoff, that all fit, and that's okay. Now, it's not directly in the box, but you guys get it. It's also based on the timing of the 0.20 seconds. So if this were to shift over, it would still have enough space around the box or the time for it to fire the PR interval to complete. Now, in some cases, third degree will have both features, and that's what I want you guys to be aware of. It will fit, and then sometimes it will not fit. So that's okay. That's why I want you guys to inspect them all. But if you get a drop, then you don't have to worry about this. But if you get a fit and a no drop beat, then you know it's third degree. It doesn't matter, because the only difference is first degree, where it does not drop and it does not fit. First degree is always no drop, no fit. Third degree, if you find one that fits, that's how you know you're in a third degree, because it did not drop and it did not fit. So I hope this is not screwing you guys up. And when we talk about third degree, I think we all can agree that this is a complete heart block. There's no communication between the AV node and the SA node. And the SA node is up here, and the AV node is down here. And because there's no communication, you have independent pacing coming from the SA node. So its timing is always true, because it's on its own beat. It's on its own timer. And down here, it's always going to be true. So it just comes whenever it comes. I'm not going to go into that, but you also do not have any dropped P waves, which is what most people think you do, and you don't. They can get buried for physiological reasonings, being that they're smaller and lower in conduction and all of that, but you definitely don't have any drops ever in a third degree, because what you have is a competitive pacing time. That's all you have. The pacers, you have two pacers, one from SA, one from AV, and that's why we don't like it, because it's deadly. It can, you need to get them out of this rhythm. So, you guys know you need to get them, call the doctor, get the patient on some sort of pacer, manual pacing. Yeah? All right, I hope this helps. Okay, before we end this session, I want you guys to see a third degree whereby you have both features on the PR interval. By now, you guys are probably tired of listening to me talk about the R to R and the PR interval. So on this one, again, because it's third degree, if you accept the definition that we just discovered, there are no drops. We prove that by the R to R interval, no drops. And then the PR interval, I wanted to use this one because look at here, guys. When you see this P wave here, look at how far it is. That does not fit. That does not fit. And look at here, this one did. That's how I wanted you guys to know that it will fit or it may not fit. Fit, no fit. So it could be either, but once you see that you do have a fit, you can rule out your first degree, because third degree and first degree share the R to R no drop feature. Okay, so the PR interval will determine a third degree for you. And I know some of you might be thinking, oh, is it really? We're not going to get into whether or not it's a true interval and all of that stuff because of the way you have the two different pacers. I just want you guys to identify the blocks. And using these two features, your R to R and your PR interval, and assuming you have a 6-second strip, this is going to put you right in the ball game. If you can do this, you're going to be great. I want to thank you guys for joining me for this block review. Again, my name is Sharina. You can contact me anytime. I am in the Orlando, Florida area. I'm at 771 South Kirkman Road, and we are an AHA training site where we offer Heart Savers, basic life support classes, advanced life support classes, and PALS classes. You can reach us at 407-329-8346. I want to thank you guys again and have a fantastic day.